Good day, welcome back to a nice new talking technical for me for this year because it's my first show. I was away for almost a month in New Zealand and Christelle ran the show and as a friend of mine said, Frans, her show was a little bit better because she had a female touch. Well guys, I haven't got a female touch and ladies, I haven't got it, but let's kick off and I've got plenty requests here and it's nice to look at these requests and the first one for me, it's the first one on the show. We're going to look at Sue's request, and that is Bitcoin. She says she liked the chart, and I looked at the weekly chart here because a lot of investors now suddenly say that Bitcoin is a long-term buy. You just need to buy it for the future, and you'll be fortunate enough to make a good profit because of coronavirus. They say that's the new way of thinking. And of course, a lot of other investors like gold. If I look at Bitcoin, you're quite right. It gave us a beautiful buying signal. When it broke this, look at this beautiful, you can see, descending channel. And when it broke there at 7450 Sue, it gave us a beautiful bounce. Well, it's already a week in, and we're sitting on 8,733. For me personally, I think we must look at this because the momentum looks like it's early. To move a little bit higher, but if we look at the chart here, that is the little piece that I want to look at. That was the previous high at around 4th of November last year, and if it can break above 9,147, I think we can see maybe another move up, and my target for this, if it plays out, is close to $10,000. I mean, it looks beautiful to me, but let's give a stop loss because as we know, if you look at a daily chart and maybe an hourly chart of Bitcoin in US dollars, you can easily see that it has massive fluctuations. So let's give you a stop loss. The stop loss will be 6,837. And can you see I'm talking about almost a $2,000 stop loss here. So that's a big stop loss. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a tighter one. If you do buy above that resistance line, I'm going to use 8,628 to make it a little bit narrower because a $2,000 for me is just a little bit too much. Well, we had a request from Jamie. Jamie said, Frans, I know that everybody's writing Steinhoff off and everybody's sick and tired of the stock, but for me, the chart looks interesting. Now let's have a look at it, Jamie. If we look at the chart, suddenly there's some life here. And let's have a look here. If you look at the longer term chart, you almost cannot see it. And remember, I'm looking at the weekly chart again. If you look at it into a closer space, you can see there's suddenly a big move to the upside. Let's just have a look here. If I zoom it in, you can see that there's this massive consolidation. And suddenly these last few days, you could see there's this beautiful spike here. Now, well, it's a blip if you look at the longer term chart. But let's have a look here at this consolidation because I can always remember there's a guy that wrote a book, Nicholas Darvas, and he always liked a share that makes a big consolidation and then eventually it breaks out of that consolidation. Now, of course, it does not show any signs that it's going to break out soon. The level to watch is 3.30. But of course, this spike from last week ago from about 120 to 170 must catch your eye. So let's have a look if there is volume. Nicholas Darvas always said that if there's volume and it's close to a break, you must maybe focus on it. So let's have a look here if we can see that. There you are. I just want to put it in there. Well, there you are. There's a little bit of a spike of a volume. You're quite right. There you are. You can see it's a blip there. It's tiny. It's definitely a little bit of a spike. Let's say, there you are. You can see it. So the best I can say is, Jamie, the best is look for this consolidation. That's that big resistance line at 331. It must break above 331 before we can get excited. Because we don't know what's going to happen with Steinhoff. We know there's still a lot of things around the legal side to give us an impression of what's going to happen. But above 331, and I'm going to use a tighter stop loss again, above 331, use R2.44 as your stop loss, because then you can protect capital. But I mean, if Steinhoff can really break out of this consolidation band, I think it can surprise a lot of technical investors. It can really give us a nice push to the upside. Well, let's look at Liu. You said, can we maybe look at PTC? Now, of course, I think Liu is optimistic about South Africa. He feels that the economy is maybe in in the bottom end of the cycle, and it can easily go a little bit higher. But unfortunately, if I look at this chart, Lou, for me, it still looks, and this is a weekly chart. I'm taking a weekly chart to just give you an idea what is happening. Well, can you just believe it? In May 2018, this share was trading at around 9 Rand. Now it is trading at around 2 Rand. So, Lou, for me, the momentum is clearly to the downside. And it's not just a case of PPC. There's so many South African shares that is really struggling. And we know that sometime in future they're going to offer great value. But I think there's something else to remember with the South African market at the moment. There's a little bit of political uncertainty and nobody knows what is going to happen. Well, by the time you watch the show, the SONA big discussion of Mr. Ramaphosa is on the go, and maybe he can give us some light. But if we look at PPC, look at this. There's the high, a double top there, a lower high, a double top again, and from there all the way lower highs, just telling you that there's some keen sellers around. So, Leo, if I look at the chart, I will say it must break above 2 Rand 30 before I will say to myself, it's the first blip, and that is that little bit of a consolidation that we've seen there. So it's early days, and remember, I'm talking about a weekly chart, so I would like to see a weekly close on a Friday afternoon at around 2 Rand 30, and then maybe the chart will look a little bit different, but at the moment it's like a waterfall formation. Now we know that usually a waterfall formation trigger into a beautiful buying signal eventually, but I mean, if you imagine at 5 and you thought it's going to turn around, look where it is now, 2 Rand. It's an ugly picture, ugly technical picture. So for the guys that's got PPC, I think if you want to sell out of it, you're probably too late. And if you want to buy it, I think it's time to just wait and be patient and don't rush into it. Well, I want to show another stock, and that's Billy. Billy's request was MTN. And you will see that I'm sticking to quite a few weekly charts tonight. And the reason why I'm doing that, because the South African market is so depressed that we don't want to go into almost daily charts. Daily charts is beautiful if the market is giving us a beautiful consolidation. But what we're seeing here now, it's that the market is really struggling. The South African economy is struggling. Now, MTN, we know, is also not just a pure South African stock. They bid into Nigeria and they like a stronger oil price. And the oil price did blip last few days. It looks a little bit better because the fears of the coronavirus is dissipating. So maybe we can see also a little bit of a move in MTN. And we also realize that the results that they announced yesterday wasn't also that bad. So it looks like maybe things are starting to turn around for MTN. But what do I see here? I first see a bigger double bottom. There's the low at around 80 Rand. There's the low previously at around 80, at around 25 February 2019. But what I like is this tweezer bottom. There you can see. There's the low close to 80 Rand. There's another close about 2-3 weeks ago. And suddenly it gives us this beautiful bounce. And what do we see? This is a descending channel. Now a descending channel, we know eventually it breaks up, and this is exactly what it did. So it already gave us a little bit of a buying signal, and I'm going to use the same method as I did before with Bitcoin. I'm going to put in a resistance line. Now, what's nice about it, it also gave us already a buying signal there. I just want to draw it incorrectly. Just lift it a little bit higher. There you are. While it is above 87 Rand 60, and it's trading now at around 88 Rand 10 cents, it's worth a buy for the medium to long term. Why do I say that? Because I look at a weekly chart. Now, if you buy it there, I think let's make use of a stop loss of 84 Rand 22. And if the target of this descending channel get reached, it will probably reach for this low. And I just want to show where's that low, because then you can see what I'm looking at. There's the low. And it will probably go to this resistance line. And that is sitting at 93 Rand and 29 cents. Well, Solly, your request was Tiger Brands. Now he said to me, Frans, I'm a trader, and I would like to see what is happening to Tiger Brands, because I think it's time to take a punt there. Now let's have a look there. If we look at Tiger Brands, and I'm going to the candlesticks because he said to me he's a trader. Now if we look at Tiger Brands, first of all, let's look at these candles first. You can also see all the way a downtrend chart. There's almost a few blips here and there, but look at this chart. Today there was a big gap here, and this gap opened because of maybe nervousness around the PepsiCo deal. And sorry, not the PepsiCo deal, because of the results that they came out and said, listen, we're going to disappoint with our results. Sorry, it's not the PepsiCo one. The gap here is between 198.10 and 194.77. So what I like about this chart is the following. Let's first use this little support line there. There you are. It was first the resistance. Yesterday, sorry, it broke below this line. And look at this shadow. This shadow is telling us that there was some keen buyers right at the support at around 184.66. There were some buyers in. Now, they did push the share a little bit higher, but what I'm a little bit nervous about it went up as high as 194.77, and then it lost momentum during the day to close at 188. Now, the big reason for this is because there was a lot of traders that thought, okay, my bounce from about 184 to around 193 is a good bounce for one single day. I'm going to lock in some profits, but I'm eyeing this gap and I am eyeing that gap. So, Solly, if you want to buy, I think buy when this gap is breached, and that's at 194.77. Make use of a stop loss of 182.51, and your targets will be this gap that I've mentioned now, and even that gap. And that gap is sitting between 209.76 and 211 Rand and 12 cents. But also keep in mind the trend is down, so it is just almost, you can say, a trade to have a tiny bounce, maybe 2 or 3% in the share price. In actual fact, a lot of shares only offer 2-3%, and then they go back to their old trend. So be careful and stick to your stop loss, Solly, because the trend is purely to the downside. Well, we'll talk again after a few seconds.